Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, developer advocate here at Dremio, with a quick demonstration of just sort of like the new Dremio Cloud UI and the new integration of Dremio Arctic as the default catalog in Sonar. Okay, so basically, again, the Dremio Cloud platform has two different types of projects. There are Sonar projects, which are the query engine, which is what I'm on the screen that I'm on right now, and then there's Arctic catalogs. Okay, so now when you create a Sonar project, every Sonar project is going to have a default catalog. So in this case, my default catalog is located over here. Okay, and that's going to be sort of my main place for organizing in this Sonar project. But I can create other Arctic catalogs, which then show up like other sources, like be connecting to object storage or databases. Okay, and the cool thing about this is that it feels the same features that the Spaces feature did in the past, where I can now break down this space or this catalog into different sections. So in this case, if I were doing like a data mesh, I could break it up into different folders like accounting, marketing, sales, which can then be governed and controlled. But you get the added benefit that any views I create and any Apache Iceberg tables that I create within these within the catalog are now versioned. Every time you create a folder, that's a commit. Anytime you create or alter a table in an Apache Iceberg table in the catalog, that is a commit. Every time you create or save a view, that is a commit in the catalog. So let's just show you some transactions that kind of illustrate some of that. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the SQL editor in my Sonar project. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to create, let's say, a new table. Okay, now I could do this. I could say create table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in my demos folder. So actually, before we do this, again, I can create a new folder pretty easily. So if I go to demos, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder for today. So I'm going to click here, add, and I'm going to add a new folder. Okay, and now today is September 8th, so we'll do this for Sep8. Okay, cool. And now I've just created that folder. And again, the creation of that folder is actually a commit. So if I head over to here to Arctic catalogs, I can go browse my different Arctic catalogs. This was in my demos catalog. Okay, and then I can see here in commits, I can see my commit history and I can see, hey, we created that folder. And the cool thing is when you have multiple users in Dremio, I can see which user made the transaction. I get the transaction ID, which I can use to do like rollbacks for auditing purposes or to time travel. I can then also, again, see exactly what was done there. So I know what was done and who did it. Okay, and I can see when they did it. Okay, in this case, 15 seconds ago. Okay, so I get this nice auditable view for me to understand what's kind of going on in any particular Arctic catalog. Okay, and then again, I can also audit my branches while I'm here, any tags within that catalog. Okay, and then browse the data in that catalog. But let me go back to that Sonar project now that we created that folder. So go back to my Sonar project. I'm going to go back to my SQL editor, and I'm going to create a table. Create table. This is going to be in my demos catalog, and it's going to be in that September 8th folder, which is Sep8. And we're going to call this table, names. Something really simple. Okay, and it's just going to have one field, name, which is going to be a varchar. Okay. And we'll do a couple transactions right off the bat, and I'm going to just insert a few records. Insert into demos.september 8th .names values, and we'll insert my name. Okay, and cool thing, I can run multiple transactions in one sort of Dremio session, in one run of the query runner. So I'm going to hit run, and that's going to begin running these queries. So I can then see the progress of all these queries that I've lined up right here. Okay, so it created the table, and now it's going to insert the records. Okay, and then once these are done, we'll be able to inspect the jobs. Okay, so now I can click here on query 1 to see that the table was created successfully. I can click here on query 2 to see one record was inserted. Okay, now what if I wanted to insert more records, but it might get a little tedious to keep typing in demos.september8th.names. Now, cool thing you can do, so let's insert another record. what if I just want to use the table name? So I'm going to say insert into names, values, okay, Jeremiah Morrow. Okay. Now, how do I type this? How does it know that I specifically want to go inside demos, inside that September 8th folder? What we can do is that there's this context section right here. Okay. And in this case, what I can do is I can set the context specifically into my demos catalog. Okay. And into that September 8th folder. And that sets the context of the session. So now going forward, when I run this query, it's running that from that context. So it's always going to assume that part of the namespace going forward. And again, I can even do that to change branches. So as we'll see here later on, I'll be able to create multiple branches, and I can even switch that branch context here if I wanted to for that run of the SQL editor. Okay, but I can just run that query, insert another name into the table. Okay, and we'll get that done. Okay, so that's inserted. And now what we'll do is we'll just query the table, select star from names, because again, we're still in the same context, so I don't have to type out the whole namespace. Okay. And cool. Okay, there's my two records. So we can see, and then again, that's querying from the main branch. Now let's say we wanted to like add some records. Okay, what I can do is I can create a branch. And the cool thing is that Arctic is backed by an open source project called Nessie. So everything that I'm doing here, you can do in any tool. So you could be doing this in Spark, you could be doing this in Flink, you could be doing this in any tool that supports a Nessie catalog in the sense of being able to utilize different branches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a branch and then insert more records from the branch. So that way what we're doing is we're going to isolate isolate those records, so that way they're not necessarily visible by our mainline production. Okay, so then what I can do here is first we'll create a branch. So we'll say create branch. Okay, and we'll just call it September 8th. Okay, and then I have to say which catalog it is. So this is going to be in the demos catalog. Okay, create branch September 8th in demos. Then we're going to want to switch to that branch, so that way every query going forward is in the context of that branch. So use branch September 8th in demos. Okay, and then I can go do my insert. So insert into, and just to be 100% sure, I'm going to type out the full namespace. So we'll say demos.september 8th .names. And then what I want to insert here is we'll insert Deepankar Mazumdar and Jason Hughes. Okay. So there's going to be our query. We'll run that. Okay. So what it's going to do is first it's going to create the branch. And now that catalog now has a new branch. It's collecting all the commits and transactions that occur in that catalog from that branch. Okay, now I've switched over that branch and I've done the insert. So now I've inserted these records. Now just to prove to you that I've made these changes solely on the branch, here's what we're going to do. So first off, we're going to query from names, select star from names. Okay, and again, since our context is switched set to main, again, this is always going to be where the SQL runner starts. I can change the context using those use commands, but this is always the starting place. So it's starting from main. So then what I'll do is I'll switch over to use branch September 8th in demos, and then we'll try to do that again. Select star from names. And again, just to be 100% sure, I'm just going to do the whole full namespace. So demos.september 8th .names, and I'm going to just do that over here. Okay, so again, this query should be coming from the main branch. Then we're switching branches, and then we're going to query it from that branch that we created. Okay, so it's going to run those queries. Okay, and now it's querying the branch. Cool. Now if I take a look at the first query, see, it's only Jeremiah and Alex were there. because those were the transactions we did when we were still on the main branch. But then after switching branches, which again, this basically says now we're switched over to the September 8th branch. Okay, now you see JSON Dipankar added. Okay, so you notice that data is now isolated there. So this has several different implications. Again, that can be used for isolating ingestion. Okay, because of that, I can do multiple transactions in that branch before ever merging and publishing those transactions, enabling multi-table transactions. Or on occasion, I might just create a branch just to create an environment for somebody else to play with, so they can go do whatever they want that branch, experiment from that branch, add, subtract, insert, delete records, knowing that any changes they make from that branch will not affect what's visible to the mainline production branch, which all your front lines analysts are running analytics on. So you enable all these possibilities, and all of it is without doing duplications of the data or having to create sort of an isolated duplicate of the data to do your changes on and swap it out. None of that. It's just all zero copy. Okay, so that's all very well and good. Okay, but not only do you get that, okay, so that's just sort of showing you off the power of Nessie. And again, I could go, create a branch and then, have Spark ingest data into the branch. I'd be able to see the data and work with the data from that branch here and then publish it when I feel like it's ready. All sorts of different possibilities. But other things you can do with, let's leave. If I go to my Arctic project, I go to demos. Okay, what I can do is I can go to like any particular table. So here's September 8th. Okay, here's the names table that we just created. I can click over here and I can set up automatic table optimization. Okay, so basically what you would do is you would go to your project settings. So first thing I'd have to do is just set up my engine for this particular catalog. So you can see here, right here where it says configuration, I'd click here. Okay, and this would allow us to configure an engine for optimization purposes using your AWS credentials. So I would just select the cloud that I already have set up. Okay, and then I can say, okay, hey, I want to, let's say small engine. Here's where any data gets written, and provide the AWS access key and all that stuff. And basically what it'll do is it'll use that engine anytime we want to optimize our table. And again, it knows when to optimize tables because, again, I can go back here, choose any particular table, and then from here, I can set a schedule and say, okay, optimize this table. So things like compaction, you don't have to think about. It will run that compaction periodically on the schedule that you set. So you don't have to worry about like the small files problem becoming too much of a problem because you just haven't thought about maintenance. It's happening behind the scenes. You're getting that isolation, and it's now all really well integrated into the Dremio UI. Okay, so it makes it really easy. But again, it's not exclusive to Dremio to being able to use that Arctic catalog. That Arctic catalog can be connected to from Spark, from Flink, pretty easily. Okay, if you want to see some examples of that, there's several tutorials I've done on Nessie showing how to connect Nessie catalogs to things like Flink and Spark over there on the Dremio blog, which essentially would be the same if you were using Arctic. You would just basically use, you would just get your token from Dremio for the authentication purposes, but otherwise it would be sort of the same process because again, under the hood, it's still a Nessie catalog that's providing the catalog functionality. It's enabling that branching and that merging and so forth. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Again, my name is Alex Merced, developer advocate here at Dremio. I'll see you all around. Again, make sure to head over to dremio.com/blog to learn more, and I'll see you all around.